Before we start, please note that the following is solely for educational and amusement purposes and is the exact transcript of the federal courtroom testimony from the Sean Diddy Combs trial, as reported by the Inner City Press. No one could have predicted the next shocking witness when a name reverberated throughout the courtroom that no one expected to hear. DaBaby, no entourage, and no theatrics. It began as a typical day in court, with the media circling outside the courthouse. For hours, in anticipation of more drama in the ongoing Sean Diddy Combs trial, the gallery was packed, phones were confiscated, and cameras were banned. DaBaby went straight to the witness stand wearing a black tailored suit. He was there for a reason, not to show off, and when the prosecutors asked him if he knew anything about the case, he didn't just say yes. Instead, he gave the name Beyonce, and the courtroom suddenly became tense. Nobody there anticipated what transpired. Then phones were seized, cameras were outlawed, and the atmosphere was so tense that it felt like it might burst. Reporters sat, clutching their notepads, whispering the names of celebrities they hoped would appear, but even they didn't see this coming. Then the back doors opened, and a baby entered, wearing a fitted black suit and a grave expression. The bailiff didn't need to tell the room to settle the matter because everyone already knew what they were seeing wasn't in the script, and he didn't even turn at first. His defense lawyers leaned in right away, and the prosecution straightened their backs. DaBaby took the stand as if he had done it 1,000 times without flinching, and the judge looked down at her notes before turning to face the child as if to make sure this wasn't some sort of stunt. He was sworn in, and then the time came when no one could be ready for the prosecutor to ask the standard question: "Do you have any knowledge relevant to the actions of Mr. Sean Combs?" Instead of nodding or responding yes, he leaned forward and responded with the single name, Beyonce. The room fell silent, so loud that the pens dropped. Reporters stared at one another in shock. And even the judge leaned back a little because it wasn't just any name. It was the name of Beyonce, the queen, the untouchable icon, the one person everyone believed was totally removed from this darkness. I have footage of DaBaby saying flatly, "And it changed everything." The prosecution almost leaped to their feet. The defense scrambled. Diddy was no longer relaxing. Instead, he was holding onto the edge of the table and staring straight ahead like a man who had just seen a ghost and a baby. He wasn't done yet. He looked the jury in the eye and spoke in a voice that made them ask who Diddy over. But perhaps the real question was who gave him that control in the first place. At that point, the case wasn't about secret parties, Cassie, contracts, or freak-offs. Rather, it was about power, real power, and what happens when someone like Diddy feels they are above the law, even when they are standing shoulder to shoulder with. After that momentous courtroom moment when DaBaby said, "Beyonce," under oath, the prosecution leaned in. The tension was nuclear. The lead prosecutor took a long pause, adjusted their jacket, and asked the most obvious question. Then, the most powerful woman in music, Beyonce, had now entered the court record, and it was about to change everything. The infant didn't flinch. "How?" said calmly. "I'm saying she was close enough to Diddy for people to stop asking who he controlled and start asking who let him get that close." "Mr. Kirk, are you implying that Beyonce Knowles Carter is somehow implicated in this case?" The entire courtroom erupted not in shock but in a strange sort of stunned recognition because DaBaby wasn't accusing Beyonce of a crime but rather exposing a system, a silent agreement, a culture of untouchable power where even the most famous people in the world had to walk a fine line between access and submission. He went on, saying, "I was on my way to a last-minute performance rehearsal when I passed by this small corridor near the backstage VIP lounge, and that's when I saw Diddy and Beyonce. You could hear a pin drop, and Diddy was now visibly sweating. They weren't just talking." The judge asked if he had any physical evidence, and DaBaby replied that he did. He explained that it was a video, a brief clip that I later obtained through a security guard I knew who lost his job 2 weeks after the awards and told me, "Some things you just don't film." He explained that the clip had no audio, just body language, and that as someone else rounded the corner, they moved away from one another. Business mode resumed, but not before the camera captured those 2 minutes, and then came the jaw-dropping. Quote, "That video doesn't prove anything illegal, but it does demonstrate that Diddy believed she was his, perhaps not as tabloids would portray it, but in the sense that predators believe they possess everyone in their vicinity." The jury sat stonily, but the press was already speculating that what the infant had stated went beyond mere rumors. Regarding scandal, it was about proximity and access, and how, despite his charm and champagne-fueled persona, Diddy had always used access as power. The baby wasn't even close, and you want to know how I knew that moment mattered? He asked the court, because immediately following that awards show, Jay-Z changed everything that attracted attention, and the courtroom, which had barely processed the Beyonce revelation, was now preparing for a new bombshell. There are things you guys didn't see. DaBaby claimed that these people all move behind the scenes because of scheduling conflicts. He pointed out a pattern whereby, after 2015, Diddy stopped showing up at Roc Nation Brunch's events. Projects involving the two moguls quietly fell through. Events where they would have previously shared the spotlight, such as the Met Gala or the Tidal streaming rollout, no longer featured them side by side with Jay-Z. DaBaby claimed to have seen the footage, perhaps not the exact same copy DaBaby had, but some version that was Jay viewed a video and chose not to publicly respond because that is not his style. Instead, he began silently and effectively chopping off duty, which DaBaby claimed was the real rot within the empire. Jay knew enough to realize that the man he had been referring to as a friend or peer had crossed a line that wasn't business-related, but not enough to confront Beyonce or ruin a brand. Then came the whisper-level accusation. What if Beyonce was never complicit? What if she was cornered? What if she told Jay what happened and his silence wasn't betrayal but protection? The court reporter paused her typing for a time, even though she was having trouble keeping up with what she was hearing. DaBaby went farther after that year, when Beyonce began to tighten her security. Have you noticed how her crew operates? Like the Secret Service, and how no one touches her in public anymore? That wasn't merely for fun. It was because something got too close. He then said, if Diddy had a moment with Beyonce even once, then no one in this industry was ever safe. When the court reconvened, DaBaby didn't simply return to the witness stand. He owned it. He brought receipts. The prosecutor nodded, and it wasn't just a testimony. It was an indictment of the entire system. The silence, the manipulation, and the unwritten rule that even royalty can be vulnerable when predators dress like kings. Addressing the judge, we would like to ask the witness to describe the media file in question. DaBaby looked at the jury and he said, I didn't steal it, I didn't leak it, I saw it, that's all. He then went on to describe the clip in vivid detail, saying that it wasn't grainy, that it wasn't accidental, and that it was taken on a backstage camera from an event that Beyonce attended in 2015. DaBaby claimed that Beyonce appeared at ease, as if she wasn't performing, as if she was finally off the clock, and then in walks Diddy. He claims that instead of the two exchanging words on the video, what transpired was DaBaby calling it a masterclass on dominance of the mind. He added that Diddy came gently, without hurry or excitement, as if he knew he belonged here. He twitched his hand. She flinched, she did. Shetch lowered herself, then grinned. Subsequently, he whispered something and laughed. It is brief, yet it covers everything. The infant stated that if it were ever made public, it would cause the internet to go down. Not because of what had happened, but because of what it symbolized. Then, he revealed something that had not yet been revealed. Another file was purportedly included. The infant stated that one of the screenshots, which included a collection of images from private gatherings and award ceremony after-parties, showed Diddy kissing Beyonce on the face while placing his hand on her shoulder, while Jay-Z watched from 10 feet away. How did he obtain the files? The prosecutor inquired. The infant paused. There is a network of individuals who are tired of what this industry conceals, but I am not allowed to name them. Someone had faith in me with perhaps because I've been. Besides, I've witnessed the stillness. The impression was already made, but the court instructed the jury to ignore the pictures until they were presented as official evidence. The plot was finally revealed, and it depends on your perspective that is finally accurate. DaBaby leaned in the direction of the microphone. You still believe that this is about parties and music videos, but this is about how he gathered people, like trophies. And if Beyonce was ever one of those trophies, even for a brief moment, then what chance did the rest of us ever have? The next part of DaBaby's testimony didn't just point fingers. Instead, it implicated the machine. He began slowly, explaining that the entertainment industry doesn't run on talent but on access. If you want the job, the headline, and the invitation, you better play the game, and the game is to avoid questions when certain names are mentioned. The infant talked of a day in 2016 when he went to a private residence in the Hollywood Hills for an exclusive after-party. Beyonce was late, he said. She entered with 2 guards, both of whom remained at the door, while everyone else was surrounded by security. He said that Diddy was already sitting in the add-off area. In 10 minutes, Beyonce was with him. Although nothing happened, I did notice a shift. Everyone in the room began whispering. "They still got that thing, huh?" asked the person next to me. "What is it?" He said, "A Diddy in response to my question. I think she was under pressure. The kind that comes when someone like Diddy keeps things on you. Maybe stories, maybe footage, maybe nothing. But when a man like that convinces people he's untouchable, he turns into a ghost that you can't stop," he said in response to the prosecution's question about whether Beyonce was under Diddy's control. He went on to condemn the wall of silence that surrounds Beyonce and her crew, claiming that they have more authority than most countries and that they stifle tales before they start. The most damning allegation concerned a meeting that was held in late 2017 to allay rumors that a compromising video featuring Diddy and Beyonce was circulating in the music industry. I know a journalist who was banned from the music press for proposing an article about Beyonce's early career ties to Diddy. Although I was unable to attend the meeting, I was told by someone that we never discuss this again. There was a gasp in the court. DaBaby gazed out over the gallery. You may believe that silence is safe in this world, but in reality, it's a leash, and Diddy held a lot of them. It was time for the elephant in the courtroom, Jay-Z. DaBaby exhaled. I respect Jay always, but you can't tell this story without talking about what he didn't do. He claimed that following the 20Bet Awards, he noticed a change in Jay-Z's behavior toward Diddy. They stopped being spotted together, projects dried up, and Beyonce began working with even stricter control schedules, locked down routes mapped minute by minute. This wasn't just fame management. Jay-Z was aware of the footage not only from rumors but also from someone in his digital team who clipped it and passed it through their hands. He clarified that in 2016, the video appeared on an encrypted server used by Entertainment Fixer. The court leaned in as DaBaby dropped the next hammer, flagged not for release but for containment. They moved fast. Within 24 hours, that server was wiped. But Jay saw it, or at least someone on his behalf did. Then came the deeper revelation, the Lemonade album. Y'all think it was just about cheating. Maybe some of it was, but insiders said it had layered messages between Jay and Bey. A warning, a reckoning, and at the center of it, a man who thought he could touch anything and never get burned. He ended the session with a quiet, chilling statement. Jay didn't confront Diddy because he couldn't. He built his empire with the same silence he now needed to protect it. And that's what this case is really about, not just what Diddy did, but what the industry let him do. And with that, DaBaby closed the book on the day's testimony, but opened a dozen new chapters in a story that now had the jury, the public, and the world questioning just how deep the manipulation went as the footage allegedly described by DaBaby loomed over the courtroom. Ripples began to reach far beyond the trial. The media silence had been broken, but what came next wasn't tabloid frenzy. It was panic control. Not from Diddy, who was already entrenched in scandal, but from those around Beyonce. Her team, usually steel-tight and surgically precise, was suddenly off balance behind closed doors. PR strategists conducted late-night phone calls that buzzed across many legal camps and Roc Nation Parkwood Entertainment. Fire alarms replaced the whispers. What's in the video? How bad is it that she was coerced or complicit? No one outside of the courtroom had seen the clip, but DaBaby's verbal description alone was enough to raise suspicions in every opulent office building between Beverly Hills and Manhattan. It wasn't just that Beyoncé might have shared a moment with Diddy. It was how he described it. Not romantic, not scandalous, but familiar, intimate, and possessive. And that was more dangerous than any kiss or flirtation, because if Diddy thought she was emotionally influenced by him, then every choice Beyoncé made during that time, including tours, deals, and collaborations, would now be re-examined. Some media sites started publishing cautious, speculative think pieces that cited unnamed insiders, while others remained silent as they awaited official footage. Fearful of damaging bridges, industry officials whispered on the ground. What no one dared say out loud was that if Beyoncé could be pulled into this, everyone was at risk, and Jay-Z, who hadn't spoken in public since DaBaby's testimony, may have known all along that Jay had been managing an unspoken truce for years, not just with Dottie, but with the truth, to protect his empire, shield his wife, and hold the line now that the wall was collapsing. What shocked the courtroom next wasn't just the content of the alleged footage, but also how DaBaby obtained it during cross-examination. He didn't bat an eye saying, "I didn't steal it," adding, "I didn't steal it," and saying, "It was given to me by someone inside." He stated that he received the files as insurance and a truth deposit from a former high-ranking bad guy employee who is no longer associated with Danny's circle. It was referred to as a little hard disk without a label. DaBaby did not identify the source, but stated that the person feared for their life and didn't want to be silenced. They simply wanted the world to know what they saw. The footage, which was timestamps of private moments captured by security cameras, backstage recorders, and party videographers, had never made it past the editing room. A collection of small moments: Diddy lingering too long at an after-party, whispering in Beyoncé's ear at a boat event, and touching her waist in a backstage corridor at a betting establishment. Not enough for headlines, but sufficient to alter a story and indicate that something unexpected happened. In the courtroom, legal observers pointed out that rather than flatly rejecting the video, the defense team attempted to disparage the teenager. "He's a rapper," one lawyer yelled, but the damage was done. The room felt the weight of what the jury had heard, even before the video was shown. Beyoncé became more silent. Diddy's attorney declined to respond to inquiries from the media. Jay-Z's social media profiles vanished. By the end of the week, the media could no longer ignore the subject because it was about more than simply what was captured on camera. It was about the equipment designed to ensure it was never seen. Beyoncé's baby names became popular in the Diddy scandal. Global news hosts fumbled with disclaimers. When Twitter went viral, Beyoncé's team released a brief surgical statement. For the first time, "We will not respect careless courtroom speculation about Beyoncé Knowles Carter, who has never been the focus of a criminal inquiry, but the harm has already been done." Split fan pages. Some came together to support her, blaming DaBaby for influence, while others started to doubt all of her previous connections. Was her silence throughout the Lemonade era purely personal, or was it a calculated cover? If you think this ends with me, you're not paying attention, because I'm only the first domino since subpoenas are supposedly surrounding others now. Meanwhile, DaBaby received one last sentence inside court before resigning. Manufacturers, dancers, security personnel, including stylists, people who may have witnessed things were compensated, and the video is now more than simply a clip. It's leverage and proof. Reporters scrambled to update headlines as the court adjourned, potentially causing one of the tightest-run celebrity machines in history to finally break. The trial was about influence, loyalty, and what happens when even a queen's image breaks. Because if DaBaby's testimony was true, everything the public believed to be true was meticulously manufactured and is now coming apart. Jurors whispered. Diddy slumped, visibly shaken. Beyoncé's name had been spoken in court, and no amount of press control could undo it.